Hello, welcome to Infinite Prattle. On this episode, I'm recording. Firstly, let's get to this. I'm recording in my mum's kitchen because I'm currently on holiday in Ireland. So I'm recording a couple of episodes in advance. So I'm recording this on, what date is it today? It's at 20 past midnight on Saturday, the 17th of February. So it's the early hours of the Saturday. And I'm in my mum's kitchen, currently on a holiday. My mum's from Ireland and I'm over visiting her, as I'm sure I've mentioned previously that she lives here. And I've decided to try and be organised and record a few advanced episodes, or a couple at least anyway, to save me scrambling around like a madman. Because I've got a few things going on at the moment. I've got a few guest episodes coming up, so I'm trying to be organised, trying to be, kind to myself. So anyway, today's episode is going to be about Ireland. I know I've done an episode previously about the Irish connection, my family here, and I wanted to talk a bit about today. It's about tourism, really, about why you should visit Northern Ireland. So let's get into that one. You're listening to Infinite Prattle with your host, Stephen. Thanks for joining me for unscripted, unedited, everything. Beautiful. Yes, thank you very much for joining me on this episode. If you're new to the podcast, very welcome to you. The name lives up to its reputation. I do prattle infinitely about anything. So enjoy. And if you're a recurring listener, thank you for your continued patience. Yes. So, Ireland. I'm going to be mainly focusing on Northern Ireland because that's where I visit the most, to be honest. That's where my family's from, and that's where I kind of call my heart home, where I feel like, even though I'm from Cheshire and I'm English, I was born in Crewe in Cheshire. That's where I live currently. I feel like this is where my heart lies, really. I've been visiting Northern Ireland for 40 years. I am 40. Been coming here since I was born, and let's face it. I was gonna say there's an elephant in the room. There's really no elephant in the room. It's pretty obvious, Northern Ireland's had its issues. The troubles that have been going on here for hundreds of years, technically, have tainted people's impressions of the place, rightly or wrongly. And I'm not going to go too much into the history and the whys and wherefores, but fundamentally, it comes down to borders and religion and more complex matters that I'm not going to go into here. But fundamentally, that's what it's about. And visiting here as a child, when you're really young, you don't really pay too much mind to stuff like that. It's kind of an adult thing to listen to, and kids don't really listen to that. And my mum and dad didn't really want me to know some of the stuff until I was a bit older. But you pick up stuff. People are talking in rooms, and you do pick up stuff. And have I seen stuff when I was visiting here years ago? Of course I have. I've heard things, seen things, witnessed things that probably you wouldn't get anywhere else, and having a normal, especially normal holiday that we used to spend our summer holidays here, Christmases sometimes, Easters. Pretty much we used to be over here every opportunity we could get. I try and do that now when I can. Bloody work gets in the way though. So obviously the troubles and stuff have been very, very bad in the past, especially the 60s and the 70s, and that's how my dad met my mum. He was over here serving in the army, in the British Army, and he was a paratrooper, and they met, and he whisked her back to England, and years later, me and my brother were born. They unfortunately got divorced 20 years ago. It's 20 years ago this year, scarily enough, and she decided to move back when they got divorced, which was hard, because obviously the distance and stuff, but it's a great place to come and visit, and I've got always got like a holiday home kind of thing, and it's great to see my mum. But it always goes so fast when I'm here. trying to fit so much in. So what do I do while I'm here, and how has it changed? Well, I'll tell you how it's changed. It's nowhere bloody like it was when I was coming here as a kid. 40 years is a long time, but the peace process has been in, for what, 25 years now, maybe longer, 20, nearly 30 years probably. Is it as long as that? I don't know. When was it signed? I can't remember. Late 90s, I think. Anyway, I remember when I was first coming across here. My mum doesn't live in Belfast. She lives on the outskirts. Well, more say outskirts. She lives near Carrickfergus, which is another very famous place. But my granddad lived in Belfast. We're Protestant family. We could class ourselves as, and we used to come over regularly. And I have seen like bombs being disposed of. The robot in Belfast city centre, because there's been a suspicious package and they've had to call the army in. And from a very young age, like I think people forget that the army used to walk the streets here. Even in the 80s and the early 90s, the army used to do road checks, like barricades. They used to walk the streets. They used to, like, this, deactivate a lot of suspicious packages on a daily basis. The news reports here were quite bad. Every night it was someone else in a sectarian beating or a shooting or petrol bomb attack or a bomb going off in someone's car or the police being targeted, etc. So even then, it was pretty bad for even today's standards, but still a shadow of its former self. But it could have quickly escalated into something worse. But I've seen things. I always remember when being a kid as not being told to leave anything everywhere. Don't forget your bag. If you pick your bag up, if you're doing any shopping, don't leave it on the floor. Don't leave it unattended. And there's something that I never noticed until my mum told me as well. There was very few, if any, waste litter bins, trash cans around Belfast because an easy thing to put a bomb in, basically. And the streets were immensely clean because my mum said from when she was a kid, both sides used to put bombs in, like cigarette packets and small parcel bombs and pipe bombs, and so the streets were always kept clear, and you were told to take your rubbish home with you and not leave anything anywhere. And even if you would leave like a carry bag on the street, like it would probably cause an evacuation because of how heightened the fear was for a bombing. So we kind of, me and my brother kind of grew up with that, and even we didn't. I don't think I had too much problems as a kid with like anyone trying to find out whether I was English or Protestant or Catholic and stuff like that. I've been asked a few times, but never like super seriously. But kids, didn't really pay it too much mind. My cousins on the Shankill, we used to get together and we used to play, and sometimes the kids would be like, "Oh, you English, are you? Oh, right, cool." And they kind of in the know, but I think they used to test me and my brother about, "Oh, do you know what this is? Do you know what that means? Do you know about the Falls Road and stuff?" And they used to question us a little bit, and we're in the know, but I was never that asked about anything. Like, I've always been very much like, if you've not done anything to me, then let's just get on, kind of thing. And the whole religious thing over here, and the border situation, and the whole thing about how how many people's affected deaths and stuff is for me it's just bonkers. And I know people have their causes and stuff and passions, but when it comes to like innocent people being affected by it, it's never good, and it's affected Belfast and the whole of Ireland really, its growth and development. And I think when the peace process was signed, and was it the Good Friday Agreement, within a few years there was an immediate effect. It felt nicer over here. There was always a bit of a tension. I never really noticed it too much when I was a kid, even into a young teen, into a teenager. You see things what you pick things up on. But I was never scared. I'll say that I was never scared to visit Northern Ireland, or Southern Ireland. Even with the police walking around with machine guns and such things, I just thought it was a bit cool. And that sounds weird, but I thought it was quite cool to see like the robotic thing destroying a suspicious package and seeing the army and being stopped at a checkpoint. I never felt unsafe, and I thought that was cool. I think the only time I felt a bit unsafe was one time that there was some activity going on where the IRA were with kind of targeting ex-military personnel, and in England as well. They weren't just keeping it into Ireland. They were visiting people in England, and we got stopped at a checkpoint once, and the squad is basically immediately. My dad looks like he was in the army, and they immediately said, "Where did you serve, mate?" And he was like, "Oh, over here." He says, "This is my wife, and we're over here visiting her relatives." And they literally said to him, like, "Keep your head down. Basically, don't tell anyone anything." And my dad had to say to us, like, "Listen, if anyone asks, about me, tell them nothing." And I think that's the only time I thought, "Whoa, it's quite serious over here, isn't it?" And I was probably about 10 or 11 at the time. And that's probably the only time I felt like a bit, bloody hell, it can get real. I've heard gunshots as well. I'm really selling this very well. I've heard gunshots when I've been sleeping at my granddad's house, heard people firing weapons in the street. And when I was very young, my mum and dad used to say it was just people setting fireworks off, naughty people setting fireworks off when it wasn't fireworks night. But yeah, it's a place that I can't describe unless you really visit, and I can't describe that kind of divide unless you see it. I mean, there's a wall that goes through part of Belfast to separate Catholic and Protestants, and in 2024, that's still bizarre to me that that's a thing. But anyway, as it is today, things are so much nicer. Like Belfast is such a metropolis of shops and activity, and for me, it's one of the best. It's the best shopping experiences I think you can get. There's so many diverse shops, local shops, craft shops, high street chains. There's like 2 or 3 shopping centres in the middle of Belfast, loads of high streets, restaurants. There's a market, great transport. And I just love coming over here and visiting. And even though I've done loads and loads of activities here, I still redo them because it's brilliant. Ireland has had a massive upturn, and Brexit hasn't helped things. But I'm kind of focusing on Northern Ireland, but Southern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, much love for that. We spent about a week last year from 70th in Galway and travelled around a little bit. Beautiful, beautiful place. So I might kind of talk about Northern Ireland, but I'm if I do, it's kind of like a slip of the tongue. Like I'm meaning Ireland in general. I just say Northern because it's just where I've been visiting. I have an Irish passport. Like, you know what I mean? Like I was able to apply for an Irish passport, and I did. And I'm proud to have an Irish passport. I'm proud of my Irish descendancy. I don't shy away from it. I think it's what makes me a little bit mad and a bit me, and I love that. But anyway, I would say, regardless of all the things I've just said, like, don't get me wrong, it's no bed of roses over here. There is still things bubbling under the surface, but it's such a fragment of even what I saw when I was a kid that, really don't worry about it. If you're not going to, as long as you don't stray, it's like any city, as long as you don't stray into the wrong places and ask stupid questions or give stupid answers, then you'll be completely safe. But you can say that for Liverpool. You can even say that for where I live in Crewe. You can say that for Liverpool, Manchester, anywhere. If you're in the wrong place or you're doing stupid things, you're gonna, you'll possibly come to grief. But Belfast has such an investment into it. The town centre is what it was when I was a kid. It's unrecognisable in places. Yeah, and it's easy to get to as well. The Belfast City Airport is literally 5 minutes from the city centre. Me and Sarah got married in Belfast, which I think I've touched on before. And when we invited people to come to the wedding, it's a lot to ask someone to travel to a different country. It's only Belfast, but it's still a plane ride, it's still a hotel, etc. Everyone that came either has been back or are planning to come back. That's the sort of place it is. You know, the people, um, despite the history, are just the nicest people. You'll normally get like, for example, you'll normally get a queue in a shop, not because the shop's busy, it's because everyone's chatting to each other basically. So you'll go to the, you know, it's the nicest place. Like when you, from where I am, like shop assistants rarely talk to you properly. They don't. They want you in and out. It's a job to them. Whereas over here, they'll natter away to you. They'll engage you properly. Um, and that's so refreshing. And you almost don't mind that there's a queue because when it is your turn, like you get to have that experience as well. Um, yeah, I just love the place. It's just love, and I am a bit biased because it's like it's my heart place, as I've said. It's the place that I love to be, and it's where I would love to return and live to. I'd love to live here. I'd love to, um, at some point, you know, I say return as if I've ever lived here. I've never lived here. I've only holidayed here and visited family. Um, but there's so much to do here as well. I'm not just in Belfast. I'm kind of focusing on Belfast, but you know, you've got the coast roads, and the scenery here is beautiful. And everyone says it rains a lot on Ireland. It does rain a lot, but you know, when it's the weather's so changeable, it can literally, if you, especially if you're driving, it can literally be raining, and then you go over the brow of a hill, and it'll be glorious sunshine and dry, and the greens are the greenest greens you'll ever see in Ireland. It is true. It is true what they say. Um, but you've got the coast roads up. You know, the North Coast Road. My mum's very lucky. It's kind of thing you probably take for granted when you live with it. But you know, 5 minutes and she's onto the coast road, and you know, driving north. Ireland's quite small as well. You can pretty much drive across it in a few hours, so it's not too bad travel wise. The problem is it makes it slower is because the roads, they don't really have a really good motorway network going through the middle of Ireland. Um, so you can get to certain places fast, then like bits of it are slow. So, but 3 hours will take you quite far into Belfast. So I'll probably say you go north to south in less than 5 hours, probably less than 4 hours. Just off the top of my head, I might be wrong. Google it, sue me. But you know, it's there's so many things to see, so many landmarks to see, and then the advent of like Ireland's been really getting on the bandwagon of filming locations. And me and Sarah were watching a film actually called Lift, um, with Kevin Hart, and we noticed a couple of film locations. Literally, one of them was down the road at the rail museum, that we go to for breakfast. I think we're going there tomorrow morning, or this morning as it is because it's like bloody half 12 at night. And we recognised it straight away. We were like, is that Whitehead train station? The rail museum train station. It's not in use. It's a heritage rail. But we recognised the train, and there was a bar in Belfast that was used, the Crown Bar, and they were passing it off as a bar in Belgium, but we recognised it straight away as the Crown Bar in Belgium, in Belfast rather than Belgium. Like, and I just thought it's brilliant that all these filming locations, and obviously in the recent years, Game of Thrones was filmed here. So you know we've got all that, and you know all the history of Belfast, and Belfast itself. If you've never been, I say banging on about Belfast, but you know it is you know the capital. Um, it's been so affluent in its past that the buildings, the main stead of the buildings in the middle of Belfast is very much like you'd see in London or Liverpool or Manchester. These big, dominating, grand structures, banking buildings, kind of, which most of them were, just absolutely stunning architecture. And you're just wandering around and just having a cracking time. And the town hall is where we got married. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. But if you do visit, there's a few places you must do. You must do the coast road going north from the shore road from Belfast. Just head north. It's all signposted, brown signs, coastal route, and it'll take you all the way around the coast, all the way past Giant's Causeway. Go to the Giant's Causeway. Absolutely marvelous, natural rock formations, hexagonal rock formations, the big crystals of basalt that cools so quickly it formed these really, really unique, massive crystals. Used in many films as well. Again, Game of Thrones tour as well is up there. You can go along the route and find all the film locations. Many of them were actually near where my mum lives, and they used horses from her village. And during, I think, season 1 or season 2, when my mum lived in her old house in the village, Sean Bean actually sat on her wall, and she was very annoyed because she was at work, and Sean Bean was apparently sat on her wall, drinking a brew because some of the cast came to the village for a break because they were literally filming literally down the road from her, which is super cool. You got the Titanic Museum because Titanic was built in Belfast. That's an amazing place. You've got the sports of Belfast. You've got football, rugby, American football, ice hockey, the Belfast Giants. You know, there's so much. There's so much. Going south from Belfast, there's a coastal route going south through Newton Ards. Go to Donaghadee. It's a beautiful place. It sounds nothing like it's spelt. You'll find that with a lot of places in Ireland. Yeah, just explore, just get out there. Me and my wife today, we'd spent a night in a hotel, and we went to the Ulster Folk Museum today, which also has a transport museum with it. And brilliant day out, especially if you've got children. And they've literally taken old houses and basically rebuilt them on site. And they've got this little village with churches and stuff, and they're all reconstructed from elsewhere in the UK, like mainly from Ireland, but some things from the UK, from mainland Britain. Just fantastic. I can't praise it enough for how it's developed in the last 20 years. It's a city that I've always felt safe in Northern Ireland, but I feel even safer now. It's you walk around, the people are just so warm and friendly. They just want to better themselves. They just want to live in peace and just have all the nice things that everyone else has had in their towns and cities for years. And that's such a nice and a refreshing thing to visit. Every time I visit, I see something different. I see something improved, and less negativity on the news stories on the TV, which I love. So I know this was a bit of a mixed bag. I know I was kind of harking back to how it used to be, but definitely things have changed, and I cannot recommend visiting Ireland as a whole, but particularly for me, Northern Ireland. And you won't regret. Bring a camera, bring a good camera, bring video camera, and bring a raincoat. Yeah, I'll put some links in the description if I remember about some of the places I've mentioned. But I think that's it for now. Thank you very much for listening. Check out my social media page, Stephen Speak. What am I saying? Infinite Prattle. Rebranded. Infinite Prattle, Stephen. Infinite Prattle. So yeah, to go and check out Infinite Prattle. StephenSpeak.com has now been updated. You'll be happy to know. I'm still working on it. I'm still getting there. Still things to do. Yeah, but just go and check stuff out and give me some feedback. Always like to have feedback. If I put a post up, just reply to it, like it, helps me out. And if you'd like to subscribe, I would be mucho grateful. Thank you very much for listening, and I will speak to you again soon. Thanks for listening to Infinite Prattle with your host, Stephen. Follow me on social networks at Infinite Prattle, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks very much.